Staying in an Airbnb is supposed to feel like a home away from home, but for some unlucky guests, it turned into a living nightmare they would never forget. And the first horror began when Rachel, a solo traveler, booked a charming cottage in rural Vermont that looked cozy in the photos but felt immediately wrong upon arrival, as the host wasn't there to greet her even though he'd promised to meet in person, and the key was left under a rock by the porch leading her into a house that smelled faintly of damp wood and something metallic she couldn't identify, with the decor outdated and a strange portrait of a family staring blankly from the living room wall. And that night she tried to sleep but heard footsteps upstairs even though she was told the house was entirely hers, and when she texted the host he replied hours later saying it was probably the old pipe settling. But the footsteps continued along with what sounded like furniture dragging, and at 2 a.m. she woke to the sensation of being watched, only to see a silhouette at the top of the stairs, still and silent, disappearing the moment she blinked. Then in the morning she found small muddy footprints leading from the back door to the base of the stairs, even though it had rained the night before, and she had locked up completely. And when she tried to leave early in a panic, she discovered her car battery was dead, despite being new, forcing her to wait for a tow truck as she sat outside refusing to step back inside, while the host never responded again, and later removed the listing entirely, leaving her to wonder who, or what, had been inside with her. The second terrifying encounter happened to a group of friends celebrating a birthday in an Airbnb cabin deep in the Smoky Mountains, where the host had bragged online about the place being rustic and secluded with a history dating back to the late 1800s. And on the first night they joked about ghosts when they noticed old photographs of strangers lining the hallway, each scratched slightly at the eyes as though someone had tried to erase their identities. And while they played board games near the fireplace, the motion-activated porch light kept flickering on even though nobody was outside and the nearest neighbor was a mile away. And when one of them, Calvin, stepped out to check, he swore he saw someone dart behind a tree, but the others laughed it off until they all heard a slow, rhythmic knocking on the side of the house and thinking it was an animal. They tried to ignore it until midnight, when Sabrina, who had gone to shower, screamed bloody murder as the rest of them rushed in to find the mirror fogged except for a clear handprint, too large to be hers, smeared across the glass. And that night, none of them slept well because whispering seemed to come through the vents, and twice someone heard their names being called from outside. And when dawn barely broke through the trees, they decided to pack up, but discovered that the back door, unused and locked the night before, was standing wide open with muddy footprints leading onto the deck and vanishing off the edge into the woods. And when they messaged the host, he casually replied that strange things happen up there. The house has history, offering no refund and refusing to elaborate as they drove off in silence, every single person agreeing never to return to that mountain. The third and most chilling Airbnb horror involved a young couple, Daniel and Marissa, who booked a modern apartment in downtown Chicago for a weekend getaway, impressed by its minimalist design and glowing reviews, and upon arrival they noticed only one odd feature: a decorative mirror that spanned almost an entire wall across from the bed, framed in black metal and positioned slightly off-center, but otherwise the space felt clean and safe until the first night when Marissa woke around 3 a.m. Forced to the sound of faint tapping, thinking it was rain until she realized the weather app showed clear skies and the sound was coming from behind the wall-length mirror, and Daniel, half asleep, dismissed it as noise from another unit before drifting back off. But the next night the tapping intensified and was followed by a soft scraping along the glass as though fingernails were tracing the inside surface. And when Marissa sat up, she swore she saw a face in the mirror that didn't belong to either of them, just a pale blur with dark, sunken eyes. And she screamed, waking Daniel, who saw nothing and insisted she was exhausted. But the following morning she noticed the mirror was slightly ajar from the wall, as if it had been pulled back, and behind it was a tiny gap revealing darkness and something glinting like a camera lens, terrifying them into confronting the host, who claimed ignorance and said the mirror was built into the wall when he bought the place. But Daniel, suspicious, removed the mirror enough to slip his phone inside on video mode, and captured a short, horrifying clip of a narrow crawl space with discarded food wrappers, a blanket, and a small camera pointed through a drilled hole toward the bed, all of which led them to bolt from the apartment and call the police, who later found evidence someone had been living secretly in that space, watching guests through hidden peepholes. Yet the listing remained active for weeks before being quietly taken down, and while the couple tried to move past the invasion of privacy, Marissa still wakes some nights convinced that someone is watching from the dark corners of their own home, forever haunted by the memory of that silent face behind the mirror. These three creepy, true Airbnb horror stories serve as a terrifying reminder that photographs and reviews don't always reveal the unsettling truths hidden within strange houses, remote cabins, and seemingly perfect city apartments, leaving travelers with the chilling realization that the real nightmare often begins after the door is locked and the lights go out.